Let's bring in White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby. John, thanks for joining us again. Let's start out with Secretary Blinken's mission. He's going to be in the Middle East tomorrow. What's on the table? What are the prospects for getting that ceasefire and the hostage release?
That's going to be right at the top of the list for Secretary Blinken, to keep pushing for this temporary ceasefire. We want it to last for about 6 weeks. It would allow for all those hostages to get out and, of course, to allow for easier aid access to places in Gaza, particularly up in the north. So he's going to be working on that very, very hard. He'll also be talking to the Israelis about their intentions and their thinking about Rafah military operations and sort of where they are in the planning stages for that.
Doesn't it, but if they go into Rafah, ceasefire is off. Any prospect of any short ending to this war is completely over.
Well, look, I think, again, we have to have a better understanding from the Israelis about what they want to do. As a matter of fact, we've had several staff talks with them. We intend to do that more. They've assured us that they won't go into Rafah until we've had a chance to really share our perspectives and our concerns with them. So we'll see where that goes. Obviously, George, if we're able to get this hostage deal in place, and we are still working at that, Hamas has not fully rejected it. They are considering this proposal on the table. If we can get that in place, then that gives you 6 weeks of peace. It gives you no fighting for 6 weeks, and that includes no fighting in Rafah. And what we're hoping is that after 6 weeks of a temporary ceasefire, we can maybe get something more enduring in place. We want to see the end of the conflict as soon as possible.
The humanitarian crisis is so dire right now. How quickly can this pier get put up, and why is that better than intensifying land operations?
I wouldn't say it's better, George. It's another alternative. It certainly will help increase the volume of aid that's getting into Gaza, but nothing can replace, quite frankly, nothing can replace the ground routes and the trucks that are getting in. And I will say that they have been increasing the amount of trucks that have been getting into Gaza. Now, there's still challenges on the ground and getting it up into the north, but that's starting to happen. And the Israelis have started to meet the commitments that President Biden asked them to meet. This pier is now being constructed. It will take probably 2 to 3 weeks before we can really see it in operation. I mean, it's a fairly complicated procedure to get that in place, and we're working closely with the Israelis about how the operation of the pier would work.
We're seeing these protests cascade across college campuses here in the United States. What is the administration's response to these protests, and what do you think about the use of police, bringing in the police to break them up?
The president knows that there are very strong feelings, George, about the war in Gaza. He understands that. He respects that. And as he has said many times, we certainly respect the right of peaceful protest. People should have the ability to air their views and to share their perspectives publicly. But it has to be peaceful. We'll leave it to local authorities to determine how these protests are managed, but we want them to be peaceful protests, and obviously we don't want to see anybody hurt in the process of peacefully protesting. But again, the president understands that. We absolutely condemn the anti-Semitism language that we've heard of late, and we certainly condemn all the hate speech and the threats of violence out there. These protests, we understand they're important, but they do need to be peaceful.
John Kirby, thanks as always for your time.